Good morning, Wasteland. We have a Mr. G today with... Introduce yourself.
Rotfish Bandit is what I'm known as.
Yes, we got Rotfish
hello.
Bandit here. And you guys are like, who's this guy? If you don't know who this guy is, he is the mastermind behind Co-Driver. He works a lot with the guys on Crossout DB. And you do your own Twitch, right?
Yeah, I stream on Thursdays mainly.
All right, I will. We'll put the link for his Twitch down below, as well as Co-Driver, so you guys can go check out those awesome resources. He's here today because he's really good at the crossouts and data harvesting and data mining. So we were here to put together a new, updated cabin tier list to replace the old one. And I figured it would be good to have somebody to bounce some ideas off of today. So that's what we're going to do. We have got a gigantic pile of cabins to get through today. So we're going to go ahead and talk about how these were ranked, and then we're going to get right into it. So we're ranking these from S class, and then A, B, C, and D. S being the best, awesome, you should own this. D being it's garbage, why are you using this unless it's for an art build? And we did our best to rank these as far as overall usability. Yes, we know all of these cabins will have niche roles in which they're going to excel at. We're trying to just give players an idea of where to spend their hard-earned coins. Did I say that right? Is that how we rank these?
I think that's accurate. I mean, there's a place for any part in this game, and there's not like a specific application it's going to work in. It's like a creative game, right? But
Exactly
some things
right.
are better than others.
Exactly right. And you guys are here for that exact reason, so we're not going to waste any more of your time. Let's get to it with D category cabins. First out the door, white cabin, the Docker. Unless you're trying to make some sort of Euro van for traveling around Europe in an art build, I don't see why you'd use this cabin.
I think the 7 energy is the biggest downside, and it's just so slow too.
Yeah, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that one because we know none of you guys are driving Dockers anyway. Next up, we have the Gorilla cabin in our D category. Yeah, not much to say about it. I mean, it's not great, and once again, it's a 7 energy cabin, and you're going to get past it pretty quickly.
I concur.
All right, I like it. Yeah, we're going to get these ones out of the way, guys, so we can get to the juicy ones. We're going to spend a lot of time on the A class and the S class. All right, we're moving up to blue cabins. The Carapace, this thing got a lot more use when it first came out. I mean, it was like, cool, look, a little weird boxy thing, and you could make art builds out of it. However, I feel like we have a lot more cabins that fit the shape profile build-wise. I mean, there's really just not a lot to it.
It's the slowest cabin in the game. The mass limit is appealing. Like, it's good in fusions as like the top of a fusion. But I mean, that's it. Just in that power square range, there's so many better options.
Yeah, it's too slow. But if you guys are like, I want to build a tank cabin, you can build lots of cool tanks with much better combat-capable cabins than the Carapace. All right, next up for blues, we have the Trucker. This was my first heavy cabin I ever got. There's just so many other cabins that can do the job that the Trucker does better. It's slow, and then it's got the only 9 energy points. What did I miss?
If it had 10, it'd be viable. I mean, it's right on the edge, and like you have stone 15 to take it up to 65 if you need to. But no, it's more of a meme.
How long ago was it that Tarjum, went and nerfed all the heavy cabins by 1 energy? It seems like it's been ages now.
It was before my time.
Oh man, yeah, it's been a while. All right, guys, we're getting finally to epic cabins. We're going to start with the Aggressor, which is, a new cabin, relatively new, so it's been added to the tier list. But it's got one of those new Tarjum perks where they're like, let's make a perk where if you're upside down and sideways and doing this one thing, you get a cool ability. So this one, you have to go forward in a straight line. Maybe we thought at first Lancers would use this. I find it impossible to keep the perk going. That's kind of what I hate about it. What do you think on this thing?
When you look at Aggressor, you got to compare it to Janabi. And it's like, they're both cabins that try to dictate the way that you drive. But the Janabi perk is just so much easier to activate and utilize. Aggressor is like, it really you can't dodge shots. You can't, you lose a lot of autonomy when you run Aggressor.
Yeah, it turns
and you're
out,
often not getting your perk.
As somebody that just pushes W sometimes in this game, it turns out going in a straight line, not a viable tactic in Crossout. All right, moving right along. This one was one of the first cabins they did, it's like the only cabin with an actual weapon. mounted right onto it. And at first glance, you'd be like, dude, that's sick, so cool. It's got a free melee weapon, doesn't cost any energy, has 12 points of energy. Except the way they designed this boar melee weapon on here, it just wedges itself. You just self-flip yourself no matter what you do if you try and use this ridiculousness on the Cerberus.
And it's just so light. I mean, for a cab that wants to be forward and engaged in melee and to be that light, it doesn't often have the durability to support that playstyle.
Yeah, I've tried to make this cabin work, and I've had no luck making it work over the years, and it's been a while.
It is really cool looking, though.
Yeah, I mean, I would be all for more cabins with, like, interesting built-in features, but that one does not work. Don't spend your money on it, guys. All right, next up, the Howl. This thing, you know, is used as a perk to boost drone damage and damage of weapons when the enemy is near you, which seems like a decent perk that would work, you know, relatively okay, but this cabin ends up being pretty meh. What are your thoughts on this thing?
I think a lot of people love this cabin, and like they look at the numbers and they think, great, I want to be around enemies. This is going to give me bonus damage. But the way the perk works, the second you leave range, it just drops off entirely. So you're kind of just tied into this brawl area the whole time, and the range is really small. So it's often you're not getting hardly any utilization out of it, and there's just better cabins in that mass range.
Yeah, and I think that I'm just really glad I brought you along today. This is exactly why you're here. Yes, 100%. All right, we're going fast, guys, on the Ds because we all hate the Ds. We're going to slow down a little bit when we get to S class. Now, Werewolf, once again, I was like, this is neat. When this thing came out, because look, it turns into like a little explodey fuse drone. Other than that, it's just super teeny. It's super low mass limit. It's kind of fast, but there's better cabins that can do this job for speed if that's what you're looking for.
The best way to help your team isn't to suicide, and this is a cabin that suicides like twice.
Straight up facts. Don't encourage the player.
2 years ago, the drone was able to capture points, which was nice because you could contest things longer. But it's just I don't know. I don't see the point to it.
What if they gave you a drone that had a little cord on top? Would that change your opinion of this cab?
Oh, that'd be a relic cabin for sure.
There you go, charge him. There's an idea for you, free of charge. All right. This guy I was really excited about, the Master, and then I tried to use it. I tried so hard to make it work. And it was just seemed like one of those classic charge him ideas where they're like, all right, maybe we'll give it an interesting perk, but then we'll make it impossible to use by putting the nodes in ridiculous places. And then, I don't know, I tried it out. I just felt like it was just so negligible. What did I miss on this one?
No, I totally agree. It's anyone that's tried to build with it is going to be frustrated. But it's just, I don't know, it's too constrained and it's not much of a perk. So you can basically just, it just compared to Cohort, it's nowhere close because Cohort gives resistance to the entire cabin. To the entire build.
Right. It's
like got essentially the same mass limit. And it's just, I don't know. I don't see in any way how it's superior to Cohort.
There's only one thing I like about this cabin, and that is the shape and size. And it's relatively small.
And that's fair.
That's
maybe that's a limit. So that might be a bias I have. So I just feel that Cohort eclipses it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. All right, next up we have one other legendary cabin coming into garbage category. At D, we have the Machinist. So for each 1,000 points of the armor vehicle's durability, increases the durability of weapons mounted on the cabin by 8%. Maybe if they changed that perk to any weapons on your build, that it didn't have to be on the cabin, that would be a little bit better. But just like you said on the last one, it overly constrains the player's build options.
If it had a node on the top, it'd be like easily an A. Like, well, not A, but maybe B.
When you say node on the top, what do you mean?
So there's the repair nodes are only on the sides.
Oh, I'm talking about. Oh, you're talking about the Master. I was just jumping ahead to the Machinist.
Oh, my bad. Wait, I thought we were done with Machine.
Isn't Machinist the one that's like the train cabin? Yeah, we just finished up on the train.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to C class cabins, guys. So we're getting now to a passing grade. We are now up from a D to a C. We will start with white cabins. We will start with the WWT1. Not much to say about it. It is a 8 energy garbage white cabin. So if you really want to make a Volkswagen bus, this cabin's your go-to. Other than that, I would give it a pass.
I spent a lot of time on it when I started the game. I don't know. Yeah, it's the same energy as Huntsman with 1,000 more mass and a little slower.
Yeah, it's fun to know you spent some time on that one. All right, did you run it with cannons or machine guns?
Chords, yeah.
Yeah, chords. All right, guys, here we go with the Thug. It's an 8 energy medium cabin. I mean, you'll use it at the beginning of the game, probably some like the Gorilla, but not much to say about it. It's a generic white cabin. You will move on to better things. Okay, I'm going through these ones quick, but stop me if you got anything you want to say about these one. Once again, Huntsman, 8 energy. I mean, is there any difference really between the Huntsman and the Thug that I'm missing? Just like a slight stats difference? I'm guessing.
I'm looking now. They have a different model, but no, they're the same shape.
Yeah, they're like look almost identical.
Oh, the Huntsman mass is 100 lower.
Okay. Thank you for checking the numbers. See, this is why Mr. G brought help today. So it's not just me rambling. I have second opinion today. All right, guys. Next up, the Bear. So, you know, looks just like the other cabins, but slightly fancier, like Steppenwolf style. Yeah, I mean, you get 10 energy with this thing. You can go 75 kilometers per hour. I don't have a whole lot to say about the Bear.
When you're looking at blue tier in that medium cab range, you're comparing Bear, Fury, and Hot Rod, and they're like very close stats, but the Bear is the slowest with like almost no gain compared to the others.
Yeah, that's why you guys will notice we've ranked Fury and Hot Rod slightly higher on our list than the Bear. Okay, on to the Jockey. I will say this about the Jockey. It is like the only 1940s style cab in the game.
I love the vibe, yeah.
Yeah, as a kid that grew up on a farm, you know, back in the 1980s, like I can get behind an old farm style truck. So if you need to build yourself an old truck or some sort of like Ex Machina themed, you know, old school apocalyptic build, this is great for art builds. Other than that, you are wasting your time with this cabin.
It does have a good mass limit for the tier, but like it's, you know, everything loses to Growl in blue tier.
All right. On to special category, we have the Jawbreaker, and I'm gonna go, you know, date myself with Crossout, because the Jawbreaker used to be a blue cabin before they added the special rarity, and this was the ultimate cabin in Crossout like 3 years ago. You could hide ammunition under these little weld points here. That was kind of one of the only cabins that could do it. It was better than the heavy cabins that existed in the game when Crossout first began. But it's been, you know, it's a victim of power creep. It's got okay tonnage-ish, not as good as some other ones. Mass limit's okay, 10 energy, it's pretty slow. What did I miss on this one?
I mean, the model's very similar to the Pilgrim, and the Pilgrim has an extra energy. The mass limit is good, it's energy constrained is primarily the problem.
And I mean, yeah, that's a big hard limit on anything you do in Crossout energy-wise. Like, if a cabin just can't compete with other cabins in the category with energy, it's like, why use it? All right, on to the epic cabins. This one has fallen on our rankings, I believe, since the last time we did this. The Bastion. But at least the Bastion's got some interesting things going on. It's got this giant blade in the front that's pretty resistant to damage. You will see people using the Bastion. You know, I've been seeing it a lot in arena mode lately, which I'm like, oh, that's a little weird. When it first came out, people often would pair it with Goliath tracks because you could just basically armor up anything that goes to the side of the blades and in between the tracks. So you saw a lot of Bastion Goliath sandwich builds. All right, give me some color on this thing. What do you think, Rotfish?
I mean, the mass is amazing. It's very affordable. It's got like, I don't know. It's just the whole tool that it has, the shield on the front, it could just be bypassed by a lot of people that can just shoot straight over it. It's, I don't know, a lot of people gravitate towards this, but I don't personally view it as that effective. And I really prefer heavy cabs, and it's my least used heavy cab.
Yeah. Now, you helped me with the data, right? So can you tell me a little bit about what you did when you pulled data on cabins, what you accessed and what you looked at when we were doing the cabin ranking?
Oh, actually, I kind of just talked to a couple people.
Well, let's give them some credit. Let's give them some shout outs.
I talked to Quantum Canine primarily.
Tell everybody that doesn't know Quantum Canine a little bit about Quantum Canine, if that's okay with them. We got to give some credit.
No, he's a very experienced Clan Wars player that's played in like some top clans, and he's got a cool perspective on the game. I've played a couple tournaments with him. He's just a very good player. Yeah. He knows a ton about the game.
That's exactly why I wanted you to sit in today, and I do appreciate you because, you know, I'm more of like your armchair dad when it comes to Crossout. I'm like, hey, guys. But when it comes to like technical and getting the win rate, I need a little help. And thank you for
We appreciate you for what you do.
Yeah. I try. I'm telling you what, though, that co-driver trying to creep my win rate up is on my list of things to do. All right, guys, the ghost cabin. Once again, a cabin with a niche perk. This thing it does increase damage while the car is in stealth. So without, I don't know, couple things. It's impossible to build around it because it's this spherical shaped, Russian helicopter design. So it's really sucky when it comes to building around it. It's got 12 energy. Okay, great. Speed's okay. Perk is just super niche. Now people will be like, I love this cabin because I have this one build that does awesome with it. Okay, good for you. Overall viability, not great. So it's coming in at C. What do you think on this thing?
I wish the perk duration was longer. It's like, it is good damage, but it's like you have to take yourself out of combat for so long. And if I don't know, there's just better builds that commit to like a one-shot strategy, which I think this is kind of trying to do. But it's just, I don't know. It's hard to build around. The damage isn't quite enough, and the duration is certainly not enough.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've seen some great builds use it. Like, it's not unusable.
Yeah, I think that goes to everything on this list. Anybody can make a good build out of just about any cabin. But what we're trying to do today, guys, is just give you some good information when you're going to purchase one. All right, guys, the Step Spider. I remember when this thing came out. It was the ultimate heavy cabin at the time, or like heavy medium cabin, because it was like a heavy medium. Because it had 12 energy and it had really solid tonnage, and you could use it with legs. So that was one of my first packs I bought that I really enjoyed before I got my promo account. Was the Step Spider, and it's just this boxy little shape, so it's really easy to just plunk it into a build and armor around it due to the shape and the nature of how it's made.
No, I love it. And this used to be like the king of medium cabins. Like it used to be, yeah. But then like Nova came along and totally eclipsed it in every way, right?
Yeah.
Like it's better mass, better speed, better everything.
Once again,
it's
victim to power creep.
Yeah. It's just fallen out of favor. And ML200s in general are not what they used to be.
No, they need some love. Targem needs to go back and give legs some new perks or something, because ML200s used to be so cool, and now everyone just drives around in Bigrams all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you guys will have to stay tuned for our movement guide tier video, I guess, to redo that one. All right, next up, guys, we have the Tusk, and you've all seen players be amazing with the Tusk. You'll see people sticking on drone builds because they can drop drones, and they can also use this as rammy damage style when they're out of drones or when they're not deploying drones. Just the way the perk works, though, you guys have seen me drive the Tusk. It's not for everybody. There are players that are very good with it. I can't make it work to save my life.
The players that are good with this only play this build, and they dedicate their lives to it. And it looks easy, but what they're doing is so hard.
It cannot be overstated. Yeah, getting that perk to just stack up, and then getting those stupid points on the front of it to actually hit when the perk's charged and not just flip yourself over, takes a real skill.
I love watching people that are good at that cabin.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a special cult of people out there that love this. And I love this video because in the comments there will be people violently defending their favorite cabin that it didn't get an A or an S-class rating in the comments. And we encourage you to do so. Leave us your feedback on what you think we got wrong in the comments. Do let us know.
We're trying to be fair from every perspective here.
Absolutely, but hey,
it's
Mr.
complicated to make a list like this.
I like a flame war in the comments because it just drives the video up in the YouTube algorithm, so it's all good for me. Okay. All right, guys, we got the Yokozuna heavy cabin. I have very little experience with this cabin. I'm just going to let Rodfish talk about this one.
I was so excited for this cabin when it came out. I tried to build compositions around it in Clan Wars for like a month. It's like, to me, a cool idea. It's just the fact that the perk requires targeting of another cabin instead of like a passive drone deploy like the cohort. It's really hard to actually utilize in combat because you're having to like look at your opponent. I mean, at your ally, activate the perk, and then return to the fight. It's like this 3-second window where you can't do anything because you're trying to give them a power boost they don't even notice. Like it's
such just an odd, like, I don't know what they do in these meetings at Targem when they come up with a new cabin and they're like, who's got perk ideas? And some of these are so
If this was a passive perk and the power boost was a little bit more extreme, then this would be a very fun cabin.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if you're just boosting the people that were around you and you didn't have to do 3 or 4 things to get it done, absolutely. All right, so onwards, guys, to cabins that are not completely garbage. We move to the B category, and we'll start with white. The Sprinter, one of my absolute favorite cabins in the game, because I love tiny cabins, and I'm a terrible person, and I like to seal club sometimes. You guys have seen me do it. I'm not going to lie and say that I don't sometimes, but I'm a bad enough player that I get a pass, and I'm allowed to do it. The Sprinter, one of our highest rated white cabins, simply because of size and speed. What did I miss on this one?
It's the more affordable duster.
Yep, absolutely right. Nothing else to say about that. It's a fun little white cabin. If you want to make something tiny, it's your friend. Okay, on to blues. In the B category, we've got the Fury, which is like a Jeep Cherokee cabin or something goofy. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. It's a blue cabin, 10 points of energy, speed and mass limit. What did I miss?
It's better than Bear and slightly worse than Hot Rod, and they're all so similar.
I love that you bring up Hot Rod because that is next on our list. And what I like about the Hot Rod is you can do art builds with it. You want to make a classic 1940s style car, Hot Rod is your friend. What other uses are there for the Hot Rod?
I mean, it's got good speed, and the mass is acceptable. I don't play in like the power score bracket where this shines, but I imagine in like the 4 to 6 area, or 4 to 6,000 power score, this is pretty good.
All right, fair enough. Next up, we have the Bat. Let's take a peek at this thing. No, I don't want to build with it, Mr. G. We just want to show it off here. High tonnage and speed at the cost of low power and weight. What did I miss about the Bat?
It's the direct upgrade of the Growl, but in a lot of ways it's worse than the Growl. It's 11 energy, which is really easy to work with, and it just has a lot of speed. It's pretty universal. You can use it on a lot of things. Yeah,
and you've got some interesting little wheel wells in the back if you do want to make yourself an art build out of this thing. It's just kind of cool looking cabin. All right, guys, on to cabins with perks in the B category. We have epic cabins. What do we got? We have the cockpit. There are some fun builds you can make with this thing. I've driven some like stupidly crazy shiv boost builds where you can just speed up and boost melee into somebody and chew them up. It's a fast cabin, 105 kilometers per hour. It's got 12 points of energy, but you've got to use it with boosters. So if you're not a super rich player and you can't afford to put like a gajillion boosters on this to make it work, you're better off spending your money on something else.
It defines Leviathans too. If you're a Leviathan player, you almost need something like that. I mean, there's other options, but this is
Tell me
probably
more.
70% of Leviathans.
Why? I heard about this. What's the deal?
Well, it's a combination of you're adding a lot of mobility, and at the same time, you're adding the biggest damage boost you have access to in that range. So it's the most efficient damage boost for that kind of archetype.
So there's giant Leviathans that boost around the map that are AI controlled that people have to blow up?
No. This is Leviathan Clan Wars.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense then. See, I had no experience with that. That's a topic for another day entirely. All right,
but
guys.
Cockpit's cool, and it's this whole like Yangwang cockpit is probably to me the strongest like in power score restricted play. But there's tons of people that play with this cabin, love it. A lot of people like to go fast and boost around and do tricks and flips.
You heard
and
it
everything.
there.
Cool.
If you want to do Leviathan Clan Wars, get yourself a cockpit. Next up, we have Dusk, Epic Light Cabin. It does the boost to homing rockets, make him go faster, make him deal more damage. I like the size and shape of this. I don't have a whole lot of experience with it because you guys know I suck at homing rockets.
This was scarier back before the pyro nerfs, but a lot of people still use it. It's like it's just so niche. It's probably the reason it's B. It is a very effective cabin.
It seems like if you do homing missiles, you kind of have to own this one, right?
If you have homing missiles and you want to brawl, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I should try it out with trombones. I need to get in there and check that out.
Does it work? I've never even seen it with trombone.
Yeah, cool. I don't know. Yeah, I'm so garbage with those. I'm terrible. All right.
I'll be nice to yourself.
Now, this cabin, I had ranked higher before on our last tier list because this cabin, it's gotten some nerfs throughout the years, but the favorite is just really good with weapons that heat up because you have a perk that lets you cool those weapons off selectively. The perk used to work a lot better until Tarjum kind of nerfed the perk. I still feel like it's a solid cabin in the B category if you're doing shotguns or you're doing anything that heats up. What are your thoughts on this medium cabin?
This used to be a very clan war viable cabin. Like the whole KTM archetype was sustained on this cabin. It's just the old perk was so much more universal and easy to work with.
Yeah.
It's kind of become like a overheat shotgun cabin, and it's I don't know. There's just other things in the category that work. It's still very viable, and I use it in a lot of builds, but it's not what it used to be at all.
Yeah, I mean, it was really good. Now it's still okay good. Next up, we're going to hit up the Janabi. This is a cabin I have not used very much, so I'm going to rely on you to tell me a little bit about this one, Ratfish.
It's pretty easy to build a wheel build that gets basically full perk the entire fight. It's a lot of fun to play with this cabin. It's just
I've seen
you weave
players
in and
with
out.
it. Yeah, they're just circle strafing you and doing all kinds of stuff while they shoot you in the face. So I mean, at least it encourages a play style that kind of works. Do you feel like it actually makes the wheels have less traction when you run this cabin, or does it just feel like that when you're trying to drift the whole time?
When you're building one of these, you want something that drifts easily. So it's probably some bias you're seeing with the people that build the wheelbase that want to de-emphasize traction.
That makes sense. I remember back when each of the wheels had its own different traction on different surfaces before they just leveled them by tier and switched the whole traction mechanics up.
The builds from that era are so cool because they all have like 10 types of wheels to like get ready for any kind of surface.
It was ridiculous. I mean, legs were kind of better back then because you're like, oh, I have ultimate traction. All right. Next up, we have the Photon, which is our Don's Children goofy energy cabin. So additional damage of energy weapons to heated parts increases by 130%. I love how they won't just give us an energy weapons damage boost, but you've got to have, you know, heated weapons on here. So you always see people like pairing like an Aurora, you know, with something else on this cabin. Interesting shape, some interesting little spots where you can hide components behind it, and futuristic look and style. 80 kilometers per hour, so not the fastest, but you're getting 12 points of energy and an okay mass limit. What did I miss on this one?
Yeah, good model, good speed, good mass limit. The perks feel easy to work with. This is better in, you kind of need like if you're playing with a team, you need someone to apply heat to get full benefits. I don't know, I like it.
Yeah, it's a solid cabin. You see a lot of people pairing the claw with it and other energy boosting components and power converters, etc. So if you're into energy stuff, think about maybe grabbing the Photon. Okay, last in our B category, and this one was kind of hotly debated. This cabin kind of used to be the bee's knees back in the day, but there's other cabins that do it now, is the Quantum Medium cabin. Solid speed, 90 kilometers per hour, 12 points of energy. It doesn't have a lot in the way of mass limit, and it has another perk that's going to boost energy. If you don't receive damage for 10 seconds, you get a weapon damage increase by 20 seconds. However, guys, most people don't realize as soon as you engage in combat at medium to close range, you're receiving damage every 10 seconds. Still, solid cabin.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to put this in a C class. It's the price is very affordable, and it's a lot of people's first epic. It's easy to build with, and it's got good attributes. But the perk can just be disabled by your opponent as soon as they decide to disable your perk.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's not my favorite in this tier.
There's better cabins.
I got talked into this by other players as being a little higher.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. And that's kind of why we tried to come with this list. I also shared it out to a lot of the people on the Discord and moved things around. We tried to do our best to make it work for everybody. Okay, guys, on to our A-class builds. And sorry for my voice being extra scratchy today, guys. All I do all day for my job is talk, so my pipes are tired by the end of the week. All right, A category. Here we go. The Duster, a better version of the Sprinter. If you want a low power score, teeny tiny build to roll around and do silly stuff with, the Duster is your friend. You got solid speed, and that's about it. It's tiny and fast.
And it's 9 energy.
When did they add that I can play the horn sound from the parameters menu? That just changed my whole world right there.
Wait, can you?
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay, you're weird. This is not a horn video, guys. I'm not going to be hitting the horn on every single cabin.
It's not too late.
It's not too late. All right, we're going to hit up next the Pilgrim. So let's take a look at this special cabin. Another Don's Children. It's like a short photon. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. What are your thoughts on the Pilgrim medium cabin?
In the special category at 11 energy, I just think it has the best attributes.
Okay. I mean, it seems like you could make some good sideways hovers with it, just the shape of it and the way, it's one of those little rectangle cabins. Easy to slap it inside stuff. All right, guys, onwards to the Wyvern. This cabin was my first blue cabin I ever got way back in the day. I got this from a miner's crate or whatever that I earned in battle. Yeah, there used to be a time Tarjan would give you a free cabin. Can you imagine that existing now? So when it first came out, it did not have these weld points up on the top, which made it kind of a pain to build with. So they did add those, which, improved it. It was a super good cabin when it first came out. It's still a solid cabin now. You get 10 energy, you get good speed, you get good tonnage. It's a versatile cabin. What did I miss about the wyvern?
I've got a lot of time on this cabin. I like this cabin. It's just, I agree with what you said.
Yeah, it's got solid stats, guys. So if you're a new player and you need something, get you some speed, go grab yourself a wyvern. All right, on to epics in the A category, and there are a lot. So stay tuned. All right, if you like to burn things and light the world on fire, really all there is to it is the blight. Now, I do not know why Tarjum does not make more perks that are just like this. Use the weapon, click the button, get the perk, but that's exactly what happens with the blight. If something's on fire or you're using a fire weapon, you activate the perk and you get an 8-second boost to all your fire damage. Like, what's not to love about that? And it's got 12 points of energy. It goes fast. It's a very solid cabin.
They've given us a ton of pass-through parts in the past year that have really added to the viability of light cabins that do what this cabin does. It's just, I don't know, it supports the whole archetype.
Explain that to us new players that are like, what do you mean by pass-through parts helping this cabin? Like, you can mount your flame stuff behind armor? What are you talking about?
Well, so at a high power score range, you're kind of limited by mass in a lot of ways, but the pass-through parts have a very low mass, so you can kind of they're very durable with a low mass. So it used to be we just had 3 gun mounts, but now they gave us they gave us 4 elbows, which are like crazy parts, and then there's just we have the vial and the catheter, and it's it's easy to build something durable.
The only one I recognized from your list was gun mounts, so I need to start looking into building more things and pass-through parts, because now you can make space armor builds, and awesome.
You can make very durable stuff in that mass limit range at like a clan war level.
Okay, now this next cabin, I feel like, is rated as an A because of the changes that were made to engines and reload-based weapons, and that is the Deadman. It is a cabin that reduces weapon reloading time depending on how many weapons you mount to it. So you get a 25% bonus if you're only running 1 weapon, so it definitely works with those giant, like, super high energy weapons, like, what am I thinking of? The Yang Wang and the weird, I can never name the names of these weapons that they name. They're so weird. And then the perk drops off over time. It's so weird.
Yeah, Deadman is just super easy to work with. It's even if you use 3 weapons, it's like a noticeable reload boost, and it drives amazingly. It's got great power.
Yeah, 100 kilometers per hour, nothing to complain about there. 12 points of energy. As long as you don't mind weird asymmetrical cabins that look like they were designed by the graphics team was doing drugs while they made it. Yeah, there's the.
I think it's beautiful.
You like it? I did. I could. You know what? It's got its place. I have its trouble with asymmetry. My OCD starts firing off. Okay, another cabin that's going to boost your reload that's been around for a while. The Echo cabin. Cool looking cabin. This thing's a heavy cabin, so you're only getting 11 points instead of 12. But the perk's fairly easy to use as long as enemies are within 115 meters of you. So mid-range, you get a perk that you can activate, which is going to boost your reload. And it's got some solid mass limit and tonnage with not amazing speed.
The tonnage really stands out on Echo. And you get a lot of the perk charges very fast on 8v8 if you're brawling in the middle, and it's easy to work with.
I remember making like sideways hover cannon builds with this thing when it first came out and just having so much fun with this thing. I mean, it had really solid torque when you put a Colossus back on it back in the day before they changed engine things up and moved everything around. All right, an old cabin that's been around for a while. Looks like a Freightliner semi-truck, the Icebox Heavy Cabin. It's got a perk that just makes sense. Damage of weapons with limited turn angles get a solid boost of 15%. You don't have to hit a button. You don't have to do anything fancy. You don't have to mount it on the cabin. Put it anywhere on your vehicle, and the perk just works. That's right, guys. Crossout used to make perks that were just normal sounding before they ran out of ideas. Not the fastest cabin. Doesn't have 12 points of energy, but it has good tonnage and mass limit. What did I miss on this one?
It's pretty fast for a heavy cabin.
Yeah, that's all right. And there's just a ton of weapons that work with this thing. So it's if you want it in your library of cabins, there's a lot of things you can build with it.
But what stands out about it from a clan wars perspective is it takes like Typhoon over the Nova Shield threshold for damage, so that instead of Nova Shield eating 2 shots, it only eats 1 shot.
That's
so
a big
you can
deal.
still penetrate through a Nova Shield with an Icebox Typhoon.
Oh, that makes sense. Fair enough. This cabin, I'm digging this one. This one was interesting and remains interesting, and I love the profile on it. It's just easy to build around. You see it a lot on sideways hovers and all kinds of different builds. The omnibox, it's just medium cabin, 12 points energy, really solid perk. Mode 1 increases cabin speed and power, which is huge. Mode 2 works on reload weapons and cooling weapons. So just a perk that works for literally everybody. I don't know what Targum is doing, where like some cabins, they're like, this works on one thing only when it's a full moon. And then some cabins are like, this perk's awesome all the time with everything. What did I miss on Omnibox?
It's really useful for power score restrained hovers, like that 9,000 power score, 11,000 power score hover. Like they use this a lot. It's just that the power is really usable in that mass range.
Yeah, and it gives you a little more tools in your tool bag. If you need to move fast, you flip it to one mode. You want to reload, you switch it over. It's a versatile cabin all the way around. Okay, next up we have the call. Let's take a look at this thing. All right, each launch drone, wheel, or turret boosts cabin's power by 35%. So if you're dropping drones or turrets, this thing's going to make you go faster, which is going to keep you alive longer. 12 points of energy, okay speed. What did I miss on the call?
This cabin is as high as it is because if you're a drone player, you're basically only using this cabin.
Yep.
It's just far and away the most usable cabin for that type of playstyle.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I've used it. You do go a heck of a lot faster when this perk kicks off, and all you got to do is launch your drones to get it going, so you don't have to manage it or think about it. Once you do it, you get the perk. Enjoy yourself. Next up, the Torero. This thing has just been an oldie but a goodie for a long, long time since its release. It increases weapon accuracy by 20%. It's got 12 points of energy. It's got a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. It's just a very well-rounded cabin that is going to work with most weapons. Easy to build around. It's a little tiny rectangle. What more do you want?
It's so fast. I don't know. I just love playing with it.
Loves the speed. And it's just pretty. You want to build like a wedge. You see a lot of these in wedge builds because it's wedge-shaped. We'll see how the new wedge mechanics plays out, but that's a story for another video. Let's see. Last up on our A list before we get to the S tier Uber Chad cabins is the Cohort. This is our big boy heavy legendary cabin with a weird chonky shape, and you get a drone that gives you or an ally damage resistance. I've used this cabin a bit. I think one of the things that is suck about it is it's one of the 11 points instead of 12 because it's got that heavy cabin nerf to it. But I haven't played it a ton. I mean, it does have good tonnage and mass limit because it's a legendary heavy. Tell me what you think about this thing.
I've got hundreds of hours on Cohort. I love this cabin. It's such an easy perk to use with your teammates. It adds so much durability to your build. I don't know. I mean, Humpback is in some ways better, but I don't know. Cohort's just a beautiful cabin. So
it does what it says on the tin. It's going to give you damage resistance, and it's going to be a big, heavy cabin to move big, heavy builds. You guys heard it there. Onwards.
I think we missed Harpy.
Do we miss the Harpy? Yes, we thank you. This is why Mr. G needs help in the mornings. How could I forget the Harpy? Anybody who's a cannon player or anything with ammunition, this bad boy used to be, I think we had an S class last time we did the tier video. It's still very, very good. You get extra ammo, and you get a boost to your explosion radius by 20%. What is not to love about that? You get 12 points of energy. You get good speed. It's a very, 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 very viable cabin. Thank you for not letting me forget this bad boy before we go to S class. What are your thoughts on this thing?
Torero and Harpy are like on the high end of A for me. They're just a cabin that's picked often. It just adds a lot of benefits. It's got multiple synergies, and it's just easy to work with.
Yeah, I think like in this category, the Harpy, the Icebox, the Torero, the Omnibox, those are all cabins that are going to work with just a vast array of builds. where so many other cabins are going to force you to just doing one play type. So if you really like to build, but you don't have a ton of coins to get your first epic cabin, something like this is just going to stay in your blueprints and your storage. You're going to use it all the time. You're not going to regret.
If you just start in the game, those are good cabins.
Yeah, you're not going to regret owning it. Okay. Finally, last but not least, while my voice still holds out, the Uba Chads, the best of the best that we could come up with, talking to tons of players, S-class cabins. This cabin, I've been saying to new players, you need to own it. You need to get one. I use it all the time. I use it all the time. It's the Growl. It is like a better version of the Duster, which is a better version of the Sprinter. It's a light cabin. It's tiny. It's 11 points of energy. It goes fast. You can build all kinds of things with it. If you're a new player, just buy this and build yourself a little shotgun build. You won't regret it. You'll be like, the Growl, awesome, great. What did I miss about this thing?
It just dominates from like 9,000 power score and below. There's just so many efficient things to do with it. It's 11 energy. It's so fast. It's like a model that's really tiny. It's just easy to work with.
Easy to build around. Look at the weld points. I mean, it's just a little rectangle. We need more cabins shaped like this. Yeah, so new players, this is the Rodfish and Mr. G recommend you guys get this one. It is our only blue S-class cabin that you can get. So if you want viability to your money, this is the one you want to get. Now, this next cabin was nice for me to see that it made it to S-class. This was one of my first and favorites back in the day. My good old boy, the Humpy. That's right, the Humpback. This is our epic heavy cabin. And it's got a perk that you don't have to think about. You receive damage, it increases the damage you deal. So if you're an idiot like Mr. G and you just press W to drive into enemies, or you make crazy worm builds like my friend Rodfish here, this thing's perk's going to go all day for you. It's got, really good mass limit, 20,000 kgs. What more do you want from your Humpy? You talk about this, friend, because I know you and the Humpback have a especially close relationship.
I might be a little biased here, and this might be an A tier, but I do love the Humpback. So when it says 1,000 damage, that doesn't mean just like cabin durability. That's anywhere. So if you're taking damage to tracks or frames or any other part, like bumpers and things, you still get the perk activation. And it just sort of, I don't know, it benefits from being large, and you already want to be large. So it's just easy to work with, really nice passive damage boost, and kind of adds a lot of viability to the heavy builds.
Yeah, so if you want to make a big boy build in Crossout, get yourself the Humpy. Okay, onwards. These last three cabins are all of our legendary cabins that didn't suck at what they were supposed to do. Let's start with the Griffin. This thing is fast, 100 kilometers per hour, 12 points of energy, and you kind of have something that's going to boost your stealth and cloaking, which is just kind of an interesting perk that I think pairs nicely along with Cloak. I know a lot of people run the perks separate from their Cloak. I've always ran it at the same time as I run my Cloak. Tell me about this cabin. What do you think about the Griffin?
These next three legendary cabins have kind of defined the meta for a year. And they outshine everything in their class on stats. Griffin just allows you to get past a lot of the anti-cloak defenses a team will have outside of like an MG player that's dedicated to decloaking. Yeah. But it's just easy to sneak through as like a hybrid or whatever kind of build wants to get through their lines and get to whoever's in the back.
I mean, you see a lot of what Lance builds on these, Doggo builds. What kind of builds do you see?
Well, there's not many like pure Lance anymore, but like hybrids use them a lot.
Yeah, and fair enough.
It's just super easy to work with. Amazing acceleration. The stats are really good for a light cab. It's I don't know. Nothing really competes with what it's trying to do.
Honestly, it defines what Targem should be doing when they're building a legendary cabin. I mean, it should be one of the best cabins in the game because it's legendary. I mean, all the legendaries we mentioned previously are just broken and don't work and probably need fixing. So speaking of...
I like build variety. This kind of cuts down on build variety.
Yes, fair enough. Exactly right. I love anything Targem does to increase players to be more creative. Makes me happy. Because that's what makes this game fun, is the building part. Now, the Beholder. This thing is a solidly good cabin because it's got Cloak built right into it, and if you have Cloak installed, it makes your Cloak better. It's got 12 points of energy. Yay. It's fast, 85 kilometers per hour, and it has solid mass limit. You'll see this thing a lot on hover builds and high power score gameplay. What did I miss about the Beholder?
Well, it essentially makes a 17 energy build where you have a free Cloak,
Exactly right.
The mass limit's just amazing. It's super easy to work with. You can rift off your cloak and use the perk immediately after if you want an extended duration cloak.
What do you mean by rift off your cloak?
Like you can cloak right before the cloak ends. You rift it off and then activate the cabin perk, and it's an extended cloak.
That's cool. Yeah,
but it's like a one-time use.
All right. Yeah,
it's just so easy to work with.
Yeah, and like you said, I think your biggest point you said is it's like a free point of energy, and I think a lot of the ideas behind the legendary cabins is they have like a perk that like saves you a point of energy or does something on its own to kind of make them unique and cool. And then, of course, this last one that's coming down the pipe, as soon as this one dropped, I was like, this thing's going to be a huge deal. The Nova. Now, when this thing first dropped, I immediately paired it with Aegis. And then, of course, Tarjum nerfed if you use other shields with this, with Aegis, because you guys know Mr. G loves to shield meme everything. But you get a free shield out of this thing. And if you're a good player, you're going to do really well with it because you've got to time it. It's only 3 seconds that it works. But this cabin has a mass limit of 15,000. It's got a solid speed, 75,000 kilometers per hour, 12 points of energy. There's just nothing not to like about getting a free shield mounted right to the front of your build.
You can make huge builds with this. It's got the best mass limit for 12 energy. It's it kind of killed the whole medium long range value exchange compositions that we used to see, like Typhoon viability really went. I don't know. It killed a lot of reload based guns just because of how efficient it is at a value exchange at medium range.
I mean, I remember when everything was just Typhoon hovers and Tsunami hovers, but you see a lot.
I think Nova's really. Oh, I'm sorry, I'd cut you off.
No, go ahead. That's why you're
here. No, Nova's really pushed a MG meta for the past year, and there's been some variations, but machine guns got a lot more viable after Nova.
Yeah, guys, I think we covered every single cabin. Do we miss any? I don't think we missed any.
We missed Hadron.
Oh yeah, where does the Hadron? Thank you for being here and awake today. Where do we put the Hadron? Is it also going to be?
It's got to be a. I don't have personal experience building with it. It's a great reload boost. The mass is really appealing. I mean, it's almost like Nova with the statistics.
I mean, I've used it a little bit. It just the perk seems to work. Things shoot faster, and it's got 12 points of energy. It goes fast. And look at that mass limit, 15,000 kilograms on the mass limit.
It could be S. I need to see if it like takes Scorpion out of a weapon stripping roll and into like a DPS roll, or like what effect it has on some of the higher end builds.
So we're putting a footnote on this one, guys, in that we don't have enough data yet. But are we saying between S and A class for the Hadron until we know more? Are we happy with that?
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay, and guys, I will put the tier list for you guys to see at the end of the video. So I'll put it up on the screen. There, you can see it right there. That's where we put everything. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you disagree with something, we want to hear about it. And if you enjoyed this and you found it useful and helpful, please hit the like and subscribe. And if you can afford legendary cabins, you definitely need to check out Mr. G's Patreon, as well as maybe Rotfish Bandit's Patreon as well down below in the description. I will catch you guys on the next one. That's it for it. Mr. G and
Rotfish Bandit
out.